So I have tried to, and I'm sorry I rambled on. Maybe I'll upload 2 videos, the whole thing about the lost generation, and then just the part about his financial situation. Yeah, I'll do that. So there'll be a full video and there'll be just this. Okay, so for those of you who didn't watch the full video, this is just kind of a snippet. This is just going to be the second half where I talk about DSP's financial situation. And I have made an attempt by doing some research for you, because I'm a professional, as to how much money DSP actually makes on a weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. Now, it could be a lot higher than this. It could be a lot lower than this. This doesn't include stuff like costs. This doesn't include his bills, etc., etc. But every business has bills. Lots of the people I know who make like $130,000, they have to pay for their house, they have to pay for their car, they have to pay for gas to drive to work, they have to pay for all kinds of stuff they need to do their job. The expenses of his business are extremely low, and keep in mind he probably writes off his video games and stuff as a business expense. I wonder if you're a food reviewer, if you can write it off as a business expense if you go to Harvey's. But I digress. So this was my attempt to kind of take his various sources of income together and to try to get a better picture of how much money this guy makes. So let's start off with Twitch ads. Now, I find, especially since his Twitch channel was inactive for so long, it's extremely difficult to figure out how many views this guy gets on a monthly basis. I went through a couple different stats sites, and I just came up with the estimate of 12,000. I think that that's fairly reasonable. I think he gets like between 200 and 600 views per video. I'm not really sure, because I've never been on Twitch or watched Twitch, how ads work. My understanding is you run an ad and you run commercial breaks and stuff. The number I was able to come up with was you get 3.5, the CPM, that is, revenue per 1,000 views is roughly 3.5. So I said, okay, so we have, oh, sorry, that's 12,000 views a week. My mistake. So I took 12,000 views a week, divided it by 1,000, and multiplied it by his revenue per million. So my estimate is he makes about $42 a week on Twitch, about $170 a month on Twitch, and $2,000 a year on Twitch. Now, I'm sure that's actually a lot higher, but I'm trying to be conservative with this. Now we have bits. Don't really know how bits work. My understanding is if you watch an ad or you donate some money, you get a certain amount of cheers, and a cheer's worth a cent and a little bit each, and you throw them to the streamer you're watching as kind of a tip. So I have no idea how many he gets. I can't find any way to track that. I don't know when he talks about getting bits if he means he gets a bunch at a time or one at a time, or however it works. But he talks about it being profitable a lot, so I assume he gets a fair number, especially over the Christmas break. So I just took an arbitrary number and I said, let's pretend he gets 7,000 bits a week. I don't know if that's reasonable. I don't know if that's unreasonable. He talks about it being a substantial amount of money. So 1.4 cents times 7,000 equals about $100 a week, which is of course about $400 a month and about $4,700 a year. So that's a decent chunk of change. So then let's go through his YouTube ad revenue. Once again, this is almost impossible to determine because everyone has different CPM, that is revenue per million, revenue per 1,000 views. It really depends. Some depends on what kind of content runs on your channel, what your demographic is, what percentage using ad block. I'll just say from my experience, throughout the year, it's probably on average for me between $3 and $4 per 1,000 views. During Christmas, it goes up to 6 or 7. So between like October and December, it goes way up. And in the early spring, it's about 180 to like 250. Plus, I don't know if network channels give better RPM, CPM than being. Actually, it should be RPM. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Better CPM than single channels. I mean, just normal partners, or if they pay more. I couldn't really see them paying less, though, because if they paid less, there wouldn't be any incentive really to partner with a larger channel, aside from if you're doing something that could get a lot of copyright strikes, or they otherwise promote you. So I just figured I'd take a somewhat low average and just say $3 per 1,000 views. I've seen people say Machinima gives a lot more. I've seen people say Machinima gives a lot less. So I looked at his views on KO Gaming since he started it, and roughly he gets about 35,000 views a week. So 35,000 divided by 1,000 times 3 is $100 a week. So KO Gaming makes about $100 a week for him, which is about $420 for him a month. So yearly so far we have a total of $12,000 from purely secondary sources. Now let's get into DSP Gaming, his bread and butter. Phil gets on average about 2 million views a month. It went down a bit after false copyright strikes. It went up a fair bit in December, despite what he said. I think it went up like 40 to 50% in December. But anyways, so using a RPM estimate of 3 and dividing 500,000, which is 2 million views a month, divided by 4 is 500,000. We can assume he makes about $1,500 a week on his DSP Gaming channel, which is around $6,000 a month or $72,000 a year. So just looking at what we have so far, he probably makes around $84,000 a year, which is substantially above the average. There's lots of people in America who support a family of like 4 or 5 fairly comfortably on that amount of money. He makes way more money than I make at my white-collar job. And now we have the big one, Patreon. Patreon, however much it is. So Patreon, he gets about $1,330 a month. He lies about Patreon a lot. The site has bugged Patreon mechanics. So we can't really be sure how much money he actually makes on Patreon. I just took at face value the number he has there. I don't know if that's with the 5% Patreon takes. I don't know if it's actually higher because of false pledges. But we're just going to say he makes $1,300 a month on Patreon, which is, let's see here, about $333 a week. Of course, $1,300 a month. And that's about $16,000 a year he gets on Patreon. In addition to his revenue. Then we also have I missed the King of Hate vlogs. So he gets about 30,000 views a month on that, $100 a week, $400 a month, and $4,000 a year. So between just kind of his very basic forms of income, he makes over $100,000. Now I have no idea how Twitch subs work. My understanding is it's like $2 a month. No, it's $5 a month for Twitch subs, but Twitch takes roughly half of them. Oh, bug Twitch mechanics. I didn't do this properly. So he should be getting half of $5, so that's like $2.5 a month he gets from Twitch subs, because Twitch takes half of it. I think he mentioned he has about 200 subs on Twitch. So from that amount, if we average it out, he oh no, I'm doing this weekly. Okay, so that is a quarter of a month. So he makes about $140 a week on Twitch subs, $500 a month, and about $6,600 a year on Twitch subs. So then we have Panda Lee's job, So from the way he describes it, I think she works about 30 hours a week. I think that's a reasonable estimate. The minimum wage in Seattle is $11. So 30 times 11 is 330. So she makes about $1,300 a month or $16,000 a year, which is not a lot, but when you add it, it adds up. So then we have Dat Soap, as Sammy Samosa would do it, say. So she sells, I did this, about 7 bars of soap a week on average. Um, she sells them for about $6 or $7. I have no idea how much they cost to make, but that's not really. I don't know the net profit of her business. It's not really relevant. So 7 times 7 is $50 a week she makes on soap, or $200 a month, or $2,400 a year, which is a decent chunk of change. I know for DSP it's not. Then we have a couple question marks. His parents apparently give him a large sum of money. How much that money is, we have no idea. He's not very clear about it. So I could add that on. I have no idea how much that would be. Oh, I forgot Loot Crate referral. I'm assuming if I looked it up, you get about $7 for every person who subscribes. I'm gonna say if one person a week subscribes to his Loot Crate, he makes about $300 a year on that. So we have no idea how much his parents give him. That could be like $10,000. It could be like $5,000. I have no idea. And then he claimed that his aunt was paying him rent, but now she isn't. But now she is, and it goes back and forth. And that could be another 12 grand a year. We have no idea. So just from my basic napkin math, DSP makes about $2,700 a week, $11,000 a month, and $130,000 a year, which is a huge, huge amount of money. It's much more than the average person. And I guess to me, because I'm Canadian, it's a lot higher than that. So he makes $3,500 a week, $14,000 a month, and $170,000 a year. And once again, it could be higher or lower than this, but I can't imagine I'm off by like 50% on this. Even if you take away like 40% of this, he still makes 100 grand a year. There's no reason he should be living paycheck to paycheck, and there's no reason he should be this poor other than his greed and his lavish lifestyle. So I just thought this might be interesting for people. I don't know if anyone's done a in-depth breakdown of this before. I have no idea what his expenses are. It's not really relevant to this because he probably can write those off as business expenses anyways. But hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you guys soon.